Hello and welcome to Author Conversations again. And as usual, I'm Chris Dabbs. Today, I'm delighted to welcome an author whose publishing journey proves that, well, it's never too late to fulfill a lifelong ambition. Joel A. Robinson is a Korean War veteran and the author of Treasure's Location, his debut novel, published at the remarkable age, I can't believe this, Joel, of 92. Combining historical intrigue, financial mystery, and high stakes suspense, the novel follows a Wall Street executive who loses everything before becoming drawn into an international search for a hidden fortune. A mystery that stretches from New York to post war Europe, uncovering secrets that have been buried for decades. But beyond the pages of the book is an equally compelling and super interesting story. Joel's journey reminds us that experience, perseverance, and creativity don't have an expiry date, right? And that some stories take a lifetime to tell. Joel, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to welcome you to Author Conversations. How are you?
Doing well. You have a British accent, I think.
Exactly, exactly. I'm glad you didn't
Well,
say Australian.
my father emigrated from England in 1931. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, cool. Well, there you are then. So you're half British as well. What can you say?
He was from Leeds, if you know.
Yeah,
But
that.
yes, but actually, the basis of writing the book. Are you familiar with the wreck of the Etosha, the largest treasure find in the United States?
No, I'm not. I'm not. But and there'd be other people that aren't either. So let us know. What is that then?
Well, it was a professor from Princeton, and he became hooked on finding treasure. And it is obviously one of the most complex things because it's either buried in thousands of feet of water or on the top of some mountain. But he, for some reason, was successful. And I happen to know a girl who was a diver on the boat. She was married to Fisher's son. And I had gotten involved with them to try to monetize the treasure. Uh, it was one thing to find the treasure, which was on the bottom of the ocean for 300 years. And they had these coins, but they're in terrible shape. And I had the idea that that year was the year that the Olympics were going to be in Spain. So I said, let's make this the coin of the Olympics, and you can sell these for $5, $50, whatever. It was a great idea. And my wife, my first wife, who has now passed away, but she was from Spain. So she spoke Spanish fluently. So I sent her to the Spanish legation, and they almost killed her. They said, "What the hell are you doing? You're stealing our money." And that got me involved in not only the treasure and monetizing treasure, but the legal rules to doing it, which is very interesting.
Mm.
And the state of Florida sued him trying to get the money. A bunch of people tried to get the money, and he was successful. And that was how I became interested in treasure hunting, treasure hunting, and of course led to the book.
Actually, now you're mentioning that about off the coast of Florida and everything else, I think that's what you said, wasn't it? That kind of rings a bell. So maybe for other people, they'll also remember that because, yeah, I mean, the law around treasure hunting. I mean, in the UK, it's in Britain, it's really interesting and really complicated. But international waters, who still owns something? Yeah, that sounds great. I mean, no wonder you got intrigued with it, and of course, there's a few bucks to be made as well, right?
Well, almost everyone wants something for nothing,
Hmm.
which is a mistake that all human beings seem to have. Uh, and another part to my life story. I was head of the statistical analyzing section at Chase Manhattan Bank in the late 1950s, and we were doing something which was very new, which was preparing the mathematics for the sales department so they could sell life insurance or retirement agreements. And one of the people I was working with was a mathematical genius. And one day he came to me and he said, Joel, I've never been to the racetrack. I said, no, I haven't either. He said, but I have found something. Horses that run in the front win at 37% or higher. And if we could figure out a way to learn something about horses, we could make a lot of money. I said, really? Now, I was going to Columbia at night, and we began researching this. And we found that if you made 5 bets starting at $5, you bet $5 and at the horse, then you bet $10, then you bet 20, then you bet 40, and then you bet 80. You'd never lose 5 bets in a row betting with the system. So we thought. So we saved our money and we went out to the racetrack. It took about 3 months we were very poor kids. And we tried the system, and lo and behold, it worked. And after a short period of time, now you have to realize how poor I was as a young man. All of a sudden, I had a tremendous amount of wealth. I was now buying clothes. I was dating a girl on who was a movie star, and going to tour the best clubs in New York, and had suddenly gone from the lowest to the highest in a very short period of time. And everything was wonderful until one day its system stopped working. Now, we examined this. Nothing seemed to have changed. But there's one thing about gambling. It is a gamble. And after a while, I realized this was not going to work. And I either was going to lose my tuition, and I felt that going to college was more important than anything else. And that was the end of my racetrack adventure. I was paying my way at Columbia at the racetrack, which is sort of an odd way to do things. And I took a job as working in Dr. Rev's laboratory, making slides at $1 an hour. So I had gone from the very top to the very bottom. It's a great lesson. And that, again, was part of what I did when writing this book, because the people that were searching for treasure were looking to become independently wealthy. But what they went through was a surprise to them, and what the basis of the book is all about.
Interesting. So it's kind of like a boom and bust, but on a personal level, right? And if you're treasure hunting, I don't know if that's the right phrase to use, treasure hunting, but if you're treasure hunting, I guess you've got investors, you've got obviously staff to pay, all that sort of stuff. If you're doing a big, maritime kind of a recovery, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, part of the book, a main part of the book, is the treasure that the Nazis took during the. See, Hitler, when he wrote Mein Kampf and wanted to go to war and occupy all of Europe, he found out the one thing he didn't have was money. And it cost an enormous amount to wage war. And so he had raised taxes twice in Germany, but the Versailles Treaty really had handicapped Germany. They were bankrupt. And we're going back into the early 30s. Well, he becomes president. He becomes the leader in 1932. So he hires this group to begin to steal from the banks, and especially in Antwerp, where the diamonds are at. And if anybody was going to catch him, he was going to say, this is done by the communists, not by the Germans. It was done secretly. And none of these guys were prosecuted at the end of the war in 1945. But during this period, the Germans had stolen billions, not millions, billions of dollars. And I'm talking about billions of dollars as of in 1945. And almost none of that has been found, which is, and so in the book, now the book is totally factual except for the character. So the character would be in Germany looking for something, and that's all very true. But anyway, what happens with these people in the book is that suddenly looking for treasure and doing something they didn't realize was dangerous became extremely dangerous. The number of people that have been killed looking for treasure is very interesting. There was one, for example, a man who drowned in Australia looking for, And it turned out he was an Olympic swimmer. So it's unlikely he died on his own. Well, he was looking for treasure. And all of that makes up the book. And of course the human interest side of it.
See, that sounds really interesting and fascinating, because of course what you're saying there is that if you're looking for treasure, someone else wants that treasure and they'll do anything to get it, basically.
Well, you have not only the people it was stolen from, but you have the German government who wants to make reparation.
Mm.
You have Wiesenthal, who's one of the people looking for it, and you had the Israeli government looking for it. And suddenly you have a lot of competition. But then you have the ex-Nazis who, well, in 1945, as they grew older, they had people that they trained who were then looking for the treasure, and they become part of the story. And the thing, it leaves Europe and goes to the United States, where these guys have found some of this treasure, but they found it's very difficult to hold on to. When you find something, the only thing that's important is whether you can keep it or not.
Exactly. I think that's amazing, isn't it?
Simple statement.
Yeah. And I mean, I guess, that's what your main character, Jim Comerford, that's what he goes through, I guess, right? Loses everything almost overnight, like you were saying earlier, before setting out looking for this treasure and things. I mean, what interested you then about beginning the story with such a dramatic sort of personal, financial and every, crash or collapse, and then to go on from there?
Well, Comerford is part of a company, Drexel Burnham, and they in fact did go bankrupt. And he wound up losing his job. He was making $650,000 a year, which was a lot of money in those days. And he realized making a great amount of salary was fine, but you needed at least $10 million in the bank to be totally independent, which is
That was
true. But
then.
how do you with $10 billion? And so that is how he learns about William Bennett, who's a socialite in New York and a fictional character. But apparently Bennett has found the treasure because he's living at a very high level. He has a co-op on Fifth Avenue. He's dating the most beautiful women in New York. Where's he getting the money? Well, he's killed in an automobile accident. And when he's killed, they look at his amount of money he had, and they can't find anything. So how is this guy living in a high lifestyle like this? Where was he getting the money? And that is the research that Comerford goes into and believes. See, the one thing about treasure is everybody knows it's out there. Nobody knows where it's at. That's the title of the book. The treasure's location. Where is it? Well, Comerford decided that Bennett must have hidden the money either in Manhattan, Connecticut, New Jersey, someplace close by. He certainly wouldn't put it in Siberia. So that, again, is a major part of the book. How he goes and what he's confronted with.
Which is amazing, the detail that you've gone into in that respect. I mean, the story, it travels through across continents, as you were saying, from Europe, to the US and back again, and through history. It's not just 6 months worth of story, is it? It stretches over a long time, as you say. But I mean, how much research was involved in creating, such an
Tremendous amount of
authentic
research.
thing? Yeah.
I am, although my education, I was a major in philosophy at Columbia, but I've always been interested in history. And so in the book, part of the book is the foundation of Mossad in Israel. Once again, searching, they were looking to search for the treasure. And the book starts in that part of the world in 1947, before the Arabs attacked. And the individual, who again a fictional character, was part of the OSS during the Second World War, and then the weather, I was also in an intelligence operation in Germany, and realized how dangerous that type of work is. To be honest with you, I am not qualified. I wasn't, and I am not today qualified to do that. You have to maintain a personality 24 hours a day, whatever fiction you're trying to put off. And so I know how dangerous that work was. And he leaves the OSS in that one at the end of the war, but is called back by the Israelis, part of the story. And they need his background to form the Mossad. And he then gets involved in that, and then he's sent to Europe to find the Nazi treasure, which he is, as things go on, he is not able to do. But I linked together all of those disparate parts to make up the story, and then concluded with what eventually happens at the end of the book.
Well, yeah, obviously don't tell us about that. But
we don't want to give you back. I don't want to give away the last line, but that's essentially the override.
Yeah, exactly. Wow. So you're intertwining the creation of Mossad and right. I mean, going really into how post-war, well, the post-war world has actually moved on since that the Second World War. I mean, I guess readers always love stories about hidden treasure, right, and unsolved mysteries. It's always one of those things, isn't it? But why do you think that people love that? I think you kind of mentioned it earlier on, didn't you? But why do you think that people like these sort of genres, and also when they're mixed together?
Well, the book essentially is an entertainment to begin with. I'm certainly not writing as a history writer, philosophy is part of the book and part of my education. But essentially, it's an entertainment, and I wrote it as such. And so it has a beginning, middle, and end, and it concludes what these people are doing. And hopefully, the book is written with enough to hold the reader's interest. I found this surprising to me. I took 4 years of English at Columbia. I took 6 years of French, mostly in literature. And I thought I had the background to be a writer. Well, believe it or not, I knew very little about writing books. And it's only been the help of my editor that has put me on the right course. And I realized how complicated it is, which didn't appear to be something difficult, but it was very difficult. Not only the research, and then again, the quality of the writing, obviously, that's got to be very important. But I found it very entertaining. Now, here I am at 92 years old. And my real oddity is, I'm still working 5 days a week. I have a printing company I founded 50 years ago. And, but I'm in an old age home for a very odd reason. Let me give you the background of that. My wife passed away in 2021, and my daughter wanted to go to Paris and take the grandchildren as something for them. And he insisted I go. Well, I'm a disabled veteran from the Korean War. I was shot in the service. And so I'm in a wheelchair. Now, mentally, I'm very mental acute. I speak, very soundly and so forth. But I didn't want to go, but she insisted. And of course, I had to pay for it. So we go to Europe, go to Paris, and I've never been concerned with my health. My health has always been fantastic. But I'm coughing up blood, which would scare me. Well, I didn't pay attention. I said, that can't be anything important. My son-in-law wanted to call a doctor when we got to Paris. I said, I don't want to hear it. So the next morning, they came into the room, and bed was filled with blood. He called the house doctor. They rushed me to a hospital. And while they were examining me to see what was wrong, I went into cardiac arrest and died. It's a true story.
Well,
so they called my daughter, and they said, you got to come to the hospital and get the body and take it back to the United States. Now, let me make the difference. A heart attack, your heart keeps working. Cardiac arrest, the heart stops. You only have about 4 minutes. Otherwise, you have brain damage. Well, I was dead for I don't know how long. I can't tell you that factually. But at some point, somebody walked by and they said, this guy's breathing. And the French doctor said, that's impossible. She told me that anyway. And she called my daughter, rushed her to the hospital. I wake up, and I have no idea what happened, and everybody's crying. You know, my two grandchildren, my that daughter, and my son-in-law, and she was so frightened by this that she wanted not allow me to live at home, and she said, "You've got to go to an assisted living." She lives in Westport, so I went to a assisted living nearby, and that's what I'm doing here. Still running my business and writing books. I give lectures once a month, but and I've never had a recurrence of it. But it's an odd story to say, but put it mildly. Uh, so you never interviewed a dead person before?
That's amazing. No, I haven't. I don't know what to say. I mean, are you actually there? Yeah, you are. So, I mean, I have not interviewed a dead person before. That's quite amazing, Joel. That's a story. How long ago was that, by the way?
That was 2021 Christmas, and I moved to assisted living 2022,
Really?
and I've been here ever since. And uh, it's the fact that I'm incapacitated and the fact that I don't walk well. I'm in a wheelchair. I mean, I have 3 bullet holes in my right leg. And that's what's causing the problem. But mentally, I haven't changed. You know, I was interviewed twice by the Wall Street Journal over the
Hmm.
last 6 months about my age. They wanted to know what I was doing, what type of things, and I don't take anything. I don't take medication. Uh, I you know, your DNA, you can do nothing about it. It's either good or bad. You can hurt yourself if you smoke 5 packs of cigarettes a day. I've never taken an illegal drug. So those are the things that are, can be deleterious to your health. But the rest of it is just, I really don't understand why I'm so different from almost everybody here at this facility, given my age.
Hmm.
Uh,
So your neighbors there, are they as what we would say sprightly, sort of like energetic and aware all the time, if you know what I mean, as you are, or are you the outlier here?
oh, I am clearly an outlier. Yes.
Right.
Well,
Amazing.
to the extent they may be president of the residents here because of my mental capacity, to handle it. To go
Yeah.
around and speak to people and try to get things done. But between that and my lectures every month and writing books, and of course running my business, it really I'm busier now than I was 10 years ago.
That's not supposed to be the plan, Joel. It's supposed to be able to calm down. I mean, this is and rest in the garden or whatever it is that you like to do, right? But I mean, you have achieved something that many aspiring writers, they hope and wish that they could actually A, start a book, B, keep going with it, C, finish it, and then be able to publish it, right? And they might just be, I don't know, middle-aged or whatever that may mean. But I mean, you have actually done it and you've gone through everything. So it's quite a rare thing as well, really. So what's all this meant personally to you to hold your published novel in your hands at your age? And I'm sorry to keep going on about your age.
Well, to begin with, and there's no fool like an old fool, so let me make that point very clear. But I don't really consider myself old. I mean, I started this around 91. I'm 92 now, but I like to write, and it was I did it for my own interest, and I did well. What was most important or most interesting, I found out while writing was not done as well as it should be done, and fortunately, when I got a hold of the publisher, and they weren't very interested in doing it, he said, "Send me a copy of your book and let me." They liked the plot,
Mm.
which was always very real, and the setting. But they made a number of corrections, which I began to understand. Uh, like anything else, whether you're a baseball player or a writer, there are certain things you need to be able to do to be successful. And really, my interest was not in making money. I mean, I'm making money with my business and other things. It'd be nice to make money. I don't want to say I don't want to make anything, but I really wasn't interested in that. I was interested in writing and then having uh, a factual response to the book. Is it any good? And that is difficult to get. You don't go to somebody's house for dinner and criticize their children. It's hard to get people to be honest.
Yeah.
What I write, is it any good? And I've gotten a lot of praise, but I've always been questionable about it. And I thought the only way to be certain that what I'm writing is good is if people buy the book. And that still remains an open question,
Yeah.
despite all the compliments I've been getting.
Well, yeah, and they will say, "Oh, you've done really, really, really well for an old guy," kind of thing, right? So you don't want to
Exactly.
hear that. Yeah, you don't want to hear that. I suppose after going to Columbia for so long and studying so hard, you've got a bit of academic in you as well, and you want feedback. You don't want like just comments, just saying, "Oh yeah,
Oh,
great." Yeah,
exactly.
mm,
And,
I'm
and
with you.
nobody, Dennis, nobody improves unless they accept criticism. And
Mm.
nobody likes, including myself. But I know that I'm never going to get better unless I listen to the critics. And that takes well, I've learned that a long time ago. I'll tell you a quick story. Uh, I had approached printing, and very quickly, everybody that's involved with printing either does it with ink or thermal transfer. And I realized that those are very poor systems, but that was all that existed. And I thought the way to do this was with laser technology, which does work, except it doesn't make a washable ink. And so the government regulations in the United States require a label to be washable for 25 launderings or 12 dry cleanings, and I couldn't solve the problem. So I hired a guy one day, and he said, "I know somebody who can do this. There's 3 Russian scientists in Brooklyn that can solve this problem." So I went out there and talked to them, and they said, "Yes, absolutely, we can solve this problem. We want $45,000, and we'll do it." I said, "How long will it take you?" He said, 3 months. I said, "I'll tell you what, I'll give you 15,000. Show me what you can do after a month." Well, after a month, they made progress, but there wasn't anything there. The long story short, it took 3 years to solve the problem. And I poured so much money into this, I almost went out of business. I wouldn't drop it. That shows that I'm not very smart. However, the Russian scientists came up with it, and I had the product, which is now patented. I actually made $1.1 million that year personally. And everybody then said to me I was a genius. Before that, they all said I was a fool. Actually, they were right. I was very, very foolish. And so I've never forgotten that lesson of people praising you and what the real story is.
Oh,
It's an
that's true,
interesting
isn't it?
part, you know.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you see somebody driving around in a great car or whatever, isn't it? And some people will be jealous or make comments saying, "Oh wow, I wish I had that Ferrari or whatever," but no one knows the backstory to it, and all that sort of stuff
Yeah.
as well. So no, I'm totally there. Well, Joel, we are quickly running out of time, unfortunately, but yeah, we
Okay.
could talk for days. I think you're a fascinating person, and I'm not just blowing smoke, as they say. I actually mean it. So let me ask you this, right? So when you've got your readers and they've just finished the book, okay, what thought are you hoping that they have at the end of that book? What are they going to put that book down and say, wow, or what? What do you want them to think?
I would hope they would be entertained. That would be the most important part. And the construction of the book is around actual events. And one thing I've always bought, I'm a very big book reader, but I have a lot of problems with a book where the man comes down from Mars and does, I mean, it's so completely preposterous that and it's very comic. Even the mysteries and such, well, he's just about to shoot him and somebody comes in the door. These are all questionable. I don't like books like that. I don't like books that are too explicit with sex. Everybody knows what sex is. If they go behind a door with 2 people, you can figure what's going to happen. And I don't like necessary bad language, even though I must say I have a very foul mouth on occasion. But I also have grandchildren, which I don't want reading a book with a lot of bad words in it. So those are things that I've tried to put together, and hopefully between it all, most important, it'll be entertaining, and people will like it.
It sounds like it sounds like it would be. So yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, listen. Finally, Joel, your story obviously is an inspiration in itself. Okay, I speak to a lot of authors who are who are quite amazed that they're writing their first novel at 60 or something, or 50 or whatever, later on, not when they're young. All right. So, I mean, what would you say to someone like that who's always wanted to write a book, but believes that they've left it too late?
Well, when I went into this old age home at my daughter's insistence, my business had been, I had sold my business to a company in China, and I had a worldwide business. And so it was very small. And I really had more time on my hands initially. And I began writing based on the time I had. I don't like being idle. People say, why don't you retire? I go, what, retire from life? What are you going to retire for? I never had any interest in retiring. And so that was really the beginning of it. And then when I wrote the book, I've written 7 books. But when I began writing, I wondered, was it any good? And so we have a book club here, and the older people read the book, and they seemed to like the book, although I was never truly impressed with the way I wasn't sure that they liked it. They said they did, but once again, we're back to that. Is it real? So all of that went into my deciding to write a book. And then once I got involved with a publishing company, I had some interesting direction where I had to use information through dialogue as opposed to just writing lines and lines of copy. Then the idea was, if I'm going to write, I want to write well, and I'm going to take this criticism to heart and do it. So the learning experience is interesting. The research I love. I learned so much with research, and I have oddly enough, at my age, I have a very good memory. But with all the, take the Second World War. I mean, I lived through the Second World War, or the Korean War, which I participated in. When you do research, you find things that there's so much to know and so difficult to get actual facts. And that all became part of an enjoyment for me as well as a task. And the result is the books that I'm writing. There will actually be 2 books published this year. So, and I realize the oddest thing about it is my age. I mean, there's nobody 92 years old publishing books.
First time author I'm talking to here. Oh, and don't forget, you're supposed to be dead as well, Joel. So, I mean,
Exactly right.
So, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Well, listen, Joel, when you've got that next book, when that next book drops, then we need to talk again, because you are just so fascinating. And I mean that, right? And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today. So
Thank you very much.
No, it's all on me. Listeners, viewers, Treasure's Location is an engaging blend of history, as you've heard, mystery, as you've heard, and suspense. But your own journey to becoming a published author, if that's what you want to do, is every bit as inspiring as the novel itself, Joel. Honestly, the way that you've done this and the way that you've approached it in later life. So basically, thank you very much for joining me on Author Conversations this time.
Appreciate the opportunity.
No, great stuff. And thank you for watching or listening, everybody. And don't forget, if you've enjoyed today's conversation, please like, subscribe, and share the interview with fellow readers and lovers of great stories. It's been a pleasure. And hopefully we'll speak again soon. Take care.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye. If you enjoyed this conversation, you can watch more Author Conversations here.